So today we're going to see how hard it is to fix up paint on an old beater car with limited space and limited experience using nothing but rattle cans. I'm sure it'll be great. Yep, it's going to go well. Oh, come on. Now, as you can plainly see, this bonnet is in very, very, very rough shape. But what I want to know is, could you fix something like this yourself at home? Well, that's what we're here to test, and I'll make the mistakes so you don't have to. This is a friend of mine's car. He's not that stressed about it. He just wants it to look better than this. So that's our objective. We just want it to look better than this, which that's a low bar. I think we can manage that. Because this paint is in such bad nick, we're just going to hit it straight with the Orbital sander. And I reckon I'm just going to throw a really light coat of primer over it because I do not trust this finish as a paintable surface at all. So here's all the kit that we're going to be using. We've got some rags, some painter's drop sheets, a couple of different orbital sanding discs, some hand sanding pads, primer, a couple of cans of base coat, and clear coat. All of this stuff is available from your local hardware store. These are super cheap paint color matches, so we'll see how they go, I guess. All up, we're probably somewhere in the realm of about 150 to 180 bucks to probably do it cheaper than this, but that sort of covers most of our bases. I'm going to start with a 320 to see how that's going to cut. I really should have an interface card on this, but I don't have one. I'm just going to make do with this one. And just as I thought, this bonnet has damage that has been repaired, so we are going to have to reprime it. The paint here was really thin, which is, look, I'm guessing this whole bonnet was repainted badly at some point, which is probably why it came undone. Which is likely going to be the same situation for you.
Now, paint repair is not really that hard, so long as you follow the steps correctly. But one thing you're going to have to get used to is a lot of sanding. Seriously, like hours and hours of sanding, and then painting, and then sanding again, and then some more sanding, probably followed by some sanding, and then wet sanding. Yep, sanding.
Right, so at this point it looks terrible, but that's okay, it's kind of supposed to. I'm trying to sand out all these little bubbles that are coming through, which I actually think they may have rushed this when they repaired this, because that all looks to be like solvent or something coming through. But we'll finish this off. We'll get a coat of primer on it and it'll look mint.
Cheap drop sheets are by far the easiest way to do this. And the coverage on them is surprisingly good. And they're like $2 each. Just make sure you pin them down properly because they tend to blow up and stick in your paint, and then you get really upset and you've got to redo everything. Now, speaking of redoing everything, make sure you wipe down your panels thoroughly because any residue or dirt or grease left on the panel will wreck your paint job and you will have to do it again. And top tip, buy proper wax and grease remover. Other stuff just won't work as well. Alright, we're just going to throw a really light coat of etch primer over this stuff, just anywhere we burn through to bare metal, just to make sure that it's treated and protected. The primer we bought from Super Cheap doesn't go over bare metal, so make sure you read your instructions and make sure that if you're going to bare metal that your primer is suited to it. Now, this can was a nightmare. I think it must have been an old can because it just spattered and sprayed poorly the whole time I was using it, which I'm probably going to have to sand it back and redo it.
Okay, so we did a quick sand and now it's time to put the primer coat on. Now this first coat is just a mist coat. We're just trying to get the paint onto the panel and give everything else something to stick to, so we're not too worried about whether it's covering completely. It's going to be a little streaky. Alright, so first mist coat, just to try and keep it looking how we want it. Now we've got to wait 10 minutes and we've got another one. Alright, coat number 2. Alright, so that's 2 coats. This can is giving me a little bit of issue because it's kind of gumming up and spattering a little bit, but that's okay. We can deal with that so long as the base coat doesn't spatter, because that would be a problem. This is not so much of an issue. Alright, we'll do coat number 3. This one will not do that the other way.
Now remember, while it's in primer, you can make all your changes and adjustments. Once you've got paint on, it's a lot harder to come back and fix things.
Okay, so it's bonnet coated, fairly decent coverage. This super cheap surface primer colour spec did not impress me that much. We've got a couple of little spots and it kept cutting in and out because it's really only made to be used vertically, which is a problem when you're trying to paint on a flat surface that's, you know, laying down. But we'll let this flash off, give it a guide, give it a sand down, and we'll be ready to move on to colour.
Tip number 2 is take your time on the guide coat. I rushed this a little bit, and some of the stuff that I missed ended up showing through in the final finish. Now, it hasn't made it look bad, it just could have looked better.
Now these are just a super cheap paint match can. You just take the paint coat off your car, it's usually on the ID plate, take it down to them and they'll mix it up for you. It takes about 10 minutes. These are about 40 bucks a can, which I think is a little bit on the excessive side, but we'll see how they cover and we'll see how they go. All right, let's see what this sprays out like. Very green. It's okay, it's only going to be a light coat and it should hopefully get darker as we go. Right, now we're well and truly into the second coat, and I noticed that we had a little bit of mapping going on here. Mapping's where the old paint starts to show through on the new paint. So we just gave that a little bit of a touch-up. There's another spot of it there somewhere, but I'm not actually going to worry about that too much. Remember, the objective was to make this look better, not perfect, so I'm sure by the time we clear it and polish it, it will be fine. Right. Those paints are still in the last little bits. And we'll see how they're looking. If we stand way back over here and squint, it actually looks pretty good. It's a little streaky and there's a few spots, like I said, but overall, not too shabby. So we'll give it one more colour coat just to be sure. Right, so hindsight being 20/50, feather just landed in the base coat. Look at a lot of this stuff just landing in it, so let's see what we can do. I've noticed too, anywhere where I left that primer, we're getting that same kind of solvent pop stuff that we were getting through the other one, which is also annoying. Anyway, this is why we try these things.
Now I should have fixed this while I was going, because this did not go away once I put the clear on.
Now for what is always the best, I keep getting this stuff just landing on the bonnets. Get out. Somebody loan me a paint booth. God damn it. All right, now for what is the best part.
Now I'm aware that this single stage clear is not the best stuff to use, but the activated stuff is a lot harder to get and tends to be a lot more expensive for what we're doing. From my local paint store, I think it's about $60 or $70 a can. And for a job like this, I really just couldn't justify the price of it, but hindsight being what it is, it probably would have saved me a lot of time in the final finish. And probably would have come up looking better and potentially would have lasted longer. So, you know, that's a choice that you've got to make where you're going.
Right, and here's something you definitely should never do, but I'm going to actually change to the Concept clear and see if it's better, because this colour spec, super cheap auto stuff, is terrible. Spray pattern is inconsistent, batters and it cuts out. All right, Concept stuff is much better. That's 2 coats and we're starting to get a nice little sheen going on. It's not quite glass yet, and it's quite peely, which is okay, that's fine. let it dry and level and do its thing, and then we'll try it again. Okay, that's 3 coats. Couple more to go. I would like to be able to see my reflection. Yeah, it would be nice, but I think we might be overshooting a little there, but we'll see. Couple more coats. I'll show you what it looks like, and then we'll give it some time to cure. This definitely feels like one of those trust the process things. You'll notice with every coat, the gloss just gets a little bit deeper. It's kind of what we're going for. Okay, so that's 5 coats of clear. And it is very, very peely. These cans are not ideal. I do much prefer a spray gun. But you know, if you don't have one, this will make do. We'll let it dry, see how it comes up, and then we'll give it a wet and dry sand polish and see if it actually comes up any good. Okay, so we've given it 24 hours to cure. We're gonna take off all our masking. So right now it doesn't look good. The sheen on it is terrible. It's shiny-ish, but like it's very dull. So now we get to do some more sanding. Woohoo! All right, so we'll get it masked up. The plan is we're going to pick a little spot somewhere just to try, and we'll go through the cut and polishing process, 1200, 1500, and 2000, and then we'll go with a cutting compound and a polishing compound and see if we can get this to come around and shine up. So it looks a little bit more like this and a little bit less like that. Okay, so this is the first pass with 1200 grit. Just a couple of spots we've got to get back to. See how that little peeliness is coming out down here. We're reasonably smooth. That's about what we want to look like. Now, wet sanding is one of those things where the more time you put in, the better result you're going to get. I probably could have spent more time making this look better and gone through more grits. I had a 1200, a 1500, and a 2000. In an ideal world, I would have spent more time and finished off with something like a 3000. Probably would have given us a better overall finish, but that's what we had, and I was doing this in the couple of hours I had after work through the week. For cutting compound, I'm just using this super cheap cream cut and polish. It's nothing special, it's nothing fancy, but you know, seems to do the job. Now I'm using a rotary polisher to do this. I would recommend getting one, but you can do it by hand if you can't afford it or you don't think you'll use it again. Get what it looked like. That's not bad. We're not done yet. Now, I'll be honest, up until this point, I thought this video may have just been a waste of time and I may not have been able to publish it. But coming off the back of this first set of polishing, I started to think we might be okay. All right, we're losing daylight pretty quick, but I'm going to get the rest of this thing cut down, cleaned over, and I'll show you what it looks like as our final result. Stay tuned. Okay, yes, so this is the next day. We got all the polishing done and it's come up pretty good. It's got a nice shine to it. There's a few bits of orange peel and stuff. Like, it's not perfect, but I'm not unhappy with it for what it is. Still got to move on to the scratch and swirl remover. So this should bring it from pretty good to really pretty good. Now, this final step probably wasn't entirely needed, but it just brought the clarity up and took some of the obvious marking out of the paint. All right, so there you have it. A couple of days and a lot of elbow grease and work, and we have a shiny, fairly well colour matched bonnet. Now, again, this thing's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but probably saved $1,000 on going and getting it done professionally. And for a car like this, it really doesn't warrant much more than this. This will get us through roadworthy. It looks presentable. If we stand right back over here, it looks flash. Hope this has helped some of you guys. We might do a couple more of these if you guys like them. And see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.